trying to document the history and lore of all of the houses in the Riverlands, Harrenhal presents us with a unique problem. In its 300-year history, the burned and cursed ruin has become home to a total of 9 houses, near all of whom have come to a bloody end, which has given root to the famed curse of Harrenhal and rumours of otherworldly powers and ghosts haunting the blackened ruin. So rather than make a short video covering each of these houses, I've made a single long one covering the history and lore of all of the houses whom have called Harrenhal home. That is an ill place, cursed they say, not that I'm the sort to swallow such tales, but still, there it is, Wyman Manderley to Roderick Cassell, A Clash of Kings, Chapter 16, Bran 2. The castle of Harrenhal itself began construction by House Hoare 40 years before Aegon's conquest by King Harren the Black. House Hoare, whom at this time were the kings of the Iron Islands and the Riverlands, had mostly been ruling their realm from a small tower house near Fairmarket for a couple of generations. That all changed when Harren the Black came to the throne. Harren raised Harrenhal upon the shores of the God's Eye as the ultimate monument to his power, intending it to surpass every other castle in Westeros in both scale and grandeur. Vast beyond compare, its 5 colossal towers were meant to stand as proof that no king before him had ever commanded such strength or wealth. The building of Harren's great fortress consumed 40 years. Countless captives died hauling stones from the quarries, chained to sledges beneath the lash. Men froze in the winter snows and collapsed beneath the heat of summer suns, while labouring upon the immense towers. Ancient weirwoods, some said to have stood for 3,000 years, were hacked down to provide beams and rafters for all the halls. To feed his obsession, Harren drained both the Riverlands and the Iron Islands of wealth, reducing entire regions to hardship, so his dream might rise beside the lake. When the castle was finally complete, Harren boasted that no force in the world could ever take it. Yet, even as he celebrated within the Black Walls, Aegon the Conqueror landed upon the shores of Blackwater Bay. On the very day that Harren first took residency in his mighty seat, Aegon descended upon Harrenhal astride Balerion the Blackdread. Dragonfire swept over the towering battlements and melted stone itself. Harren and all of his line burned alive in the tallest of the towers, later known as the King's Pyre, while the heat of Balerion's flames left the castle warped and blackened forever. Since the Conquest, Harrenhal has stood as both a marvel and a curse. Vast beyond reason, it is too immense to garrison properly, and ruinously expensive to maintain. Tales claim that Harren mixed human blood into the mortar of the walls, and many believe the castle has been cursed because of the countless horrors that have unfolded within it. Lord after lord has risen, only to meet an early death or violent downfall, strengthening the belief that no family could hold Harrenhal for long without ruin. King Aegon Targaryen, Aegon the Conqueror, in the wake of his conquest, granted Harrenhal to Quentyn Qoherys. Sir Quentyn was the master-at-arms at Dragonstone, the very man who entrained both Aegon and Visenya Targaryen in arms. Lord Quentyn had 2 strong sons and a plump grandson to continue the line of his family, but as his first wife had died of spotted fever in 1 BC, he agreed to wed a daughter of his liege lord, Edmund Tully of Riverrun. In 9 AC he died from a fall from his horse, and was succeeded by his grandson, Gargan. While we cannot be certain, it's possible that House Qoherys may have had some kind of Valyrian descent, given the spelling of the name matches with a lot of Valyrian spelling conventions. It would not be surprising if House Qoherys was part of the handful of retainers Aenar the Exile had brought with him to Dragonstone prior to the doom of Valyria. House Qoherys died out during the reign of King Aenys Targaryen in 37 AC, when Lord Gargan was slain during Harren the Red's rebellion. Lord Lucas Harroway succeeded Gargan as Lord of Harrenhal, when the lands and titles of Harrenhal were granted to him by King Aenys. 2 years later, Prince Maegor Targaryen took Alys Harroway, daughter of Lucas, as his second wife, in an ancient Valyrian ceremony held upon Dragonstone. This marriage caused outrage throughout the realm, and rather than set Alys aside, Maegor chose exile, departing Westeros for Pentos in 40 AC. When he returned in 42 AC to seize the Iron Throne after the death of his brother Aenys, Alys rose with him as queen. The following year, Maegor elevated her father, Lucas, to the office of Hand of the King. Lucas would fight beside the king in the battle beneath the God's Eye against Prince Aegon the Uncrowned, and afterwards much of the burden of the governance of the realm fell to him, while Maegor devoted himself to completing the Red Keep. The fortunes of House Harroway would not endure. In 44 AC, after Queen Alys gave birth to a monstrous stillborn child, Maegor turned against her entire family. His third wife, Queen Tyenna, convinced him that Alys had been unfaithful and supplied the names of men who she'd supposedly taken as lovers. Enraged, Maegor ordered the destruction of House Harroway, hunting down and executing every member he could find in King's Landing, Harrenhal, and Lord Harroway's town. After King Maegor exterminated House Harroway, he proclaimed that Harrenhal would be awarded to the strongest amongst his knights. To decide the matter, 23 of Maegor's household knights fought one another in the blood-drenched streets of Lord Harroway's town. Though terribly wounded in the struggle, Sir Walton Towers emerged victorious and was granted Harrenhal and its titles. His triumph proved short-lived. He died within a fortnight from his injuries. The castle then passed to his eldest son, Jordan Towers. Though the vast dominions once tied to Harrenhal had already been broken apart, Lord Harroway's town was granted to Alton Butterwell, whilst the remaining Harroway lands passed to Darnell Darry. When the realm later began turning towards Prince Qoherys against Maegor, Lord Towers answered the king's summons alongside the other loyal lords. In the final days of Maegor's reign, Lord Towers and Rosby were the last men to have seen the king alive before he was found dead upon the Iron Throne. After Maegor's death, Jordan wisely yielded the Red Keep to Prince Qoherys and received a royal pardon for his loyalty to the fallen king, though he was forced to surrender portions of his lands. By 53 AC, the lordship had passed to young Maegor Towers, a sickly boy of 9 whose father had died of a chest ailment, while his elder brothers had perished in Maegor's wars. Though House Towers remained on good terms with the crown, its fortunes had declined badly. Harrenhal had become a hollow shell of its former grandeur, with scarcely more than a cook and 3 men-at-arms remaining in service there. Since the sickly and impoverished Lord Maegor only utilised one of Harrenhal's 5 towers, King Qoherys settled his widowed sister, Queen Rhaena, in Harrenhal. Rhaena lived in the widow's tower, became friends with poor Maegor, and she took care of his household after his passing. Rhaena died at Harrenhal in 73 AC, and the king had her remains burned and interned in the castle. Thus did the flower of House Strong, an ancient line of noble warriors, boasting descent from the first men, come to an ignoble end. In the ward at Harrenhal, the writings of Archmaester Galdane, Fire and Blood, The Dying of the Dragons, Rhaenyra triumphant. House Strong was granted Harrenhal after the death of Rhaena, but unlike most of the previous houses to be granted Harrenhal, House Strong was much older and a much more established house, dating back to the age of the First Men. We know that Sir Osmond Strong was named Hand of the King during the reign of Aegon the Conqueror and oversaw the construction of the walls around King's Landing. We also know of a Sir Lucamore Strong, who was the victor of the grand melee held during the tourney for the completion of the Dragon Pit in 55 AC. After Sir Willem the Wasp passed away the following year, King Qoherys replaced him in the Kingsguard with Lucamore. After the death of Queen Rhaena Targaryen in 73 AC, King Qoherys granted Harrenhal to Sir Bywin Strong, brother of the famed Lucamore Strong of the Kingsguard. That very same year, Lucamore himself fell into disgrace when it was discovered that, despite his vows, he had fathered 16 children by multiple women. In punishment, he was gelded and sent to the wall to join the Night's Watch, a scandal so notorious that a song would later be written about him. In the reign of King Viserys I, House Strong again rose to prominence through Lord Lionel Strong, who became the Master of Laws in 105 AC. Bringing his family to court, Lionel placed his daughters among the companions of Princess Rhaenyra, while his sons found influence of their own. Sir Harwin Strong rose high within the City Watch, eventually becoming one of its captains, while the younger son, Larys Strong, entered the service among the Confessors. 4 years later, Lionel replaced Otto Hightower as Hand of the King. Sir Harwin later became Worn Shield to Princess Rhaenyra, and whispers soon began to spread throughout the realm that he, rather than Laenor Velaryon, had fathered her sons, Jacaerys, Lucerys, and Joffrey. In 120 AC, tragedy struck House Strong, when both Lionel and Harwin perished in a fire at Harrenhal. With their deaths, lordship of the great castle passed to Larys. Larys would go on to become one of the most feared and influential men at court, serving King Viserys as Master of Whispers and Lord Confessor alike. Around Harrenhal itself lingered dark tales, still amongst them the uncertain origin of Alys Rivers, who was said by some to have been a bastard daughter of Lionel, whilst others claimed she belonged to an older generation of the house entirely. At the onset of the Dance of the Dragons, House Strong remained a wealthy and influential house, its riches described by Archmaester Galdane as far from insignificant. Lord Larys Strong stood firmly with the Greens, serving King Aegon II upon the Green Council. Meanwhile, Harrenhal itself was held for the crown by Larys's great-uncle Sir Simon Strong, who governed the vast castle as Castellan. That loyalty availed them little once Prince Daemon Targaryen descended upon Harrenhal for Queen Rhaenyra. The castle fell to the Blacks, and Sir Simon, together with his grandsons, were taken captive. Later, when Sir Criston Cole and Prince Aemon Targaryen reclaimed Harrenhal, Aemon judged Simon as a traitor for surrendering the castle. In his fury, the prince put Simon and nearly every member of his line to death, trueborn and bastard alike. Only Alys Rivers was spared. In the end, House Strong came to an end soon after the Dance of the Dragons itself, when King Aegon II refused to yield. Despite the destruction of the last green host at the Battle of the King's Road, he was poisoned not long after. During the hour of the wolf that followed, Lord Larys was accused of betraying the king. Offered the choice between execution and the wall, he chose death. Lord Cregan Stark, serving briefly as Hand of the King to the young King Aegon III, personally carried out the sentence. With Larys' death in 131 AC, House Strong passed into extinction. Alys Rivers became known to history as the Witch Queen of Harrenhal during the regency of King Aegon III, ruling the great ruined castle in the unsettled years after the dance. She claimed to Sir Regis Grove and Sir Daemon Darry that she had married Prince Aemon Targaryen, and further insisted that her young son she presented was in fact Aemon's true-born son and heir and rightful claimant to the Iron Throne. The encounter ended badly for those sent against her. Sir Regis did not survive, while Sir Daemon fled back to Darry with tales of sorcery and terror within Harrenhal's blackened walls. Matters grew stranger still when a messenger later claimed to have seen a living dragon within the castle itself, a rumour that spread quickly throughout the realm. The regents ruling for the young king intended to assemble a great host to retake Harrenhal and put an end to Alys once and for all, but those plans could not be carried out. The winter fever had swept across the realm in 133 AC, throwing the kingdom into fresh chaos and delaying any reckoning with the Witch Queen. After this, Alys Rivers and her young son fade into the unknown pages of history. He found an old shield in the armory, battered and splintered, and chipped paint still showing most of the great black bat of House Lothston upon a field of silver and gold. The Lothstons held Harrenhal before the Whents, and had been a powerful family in their day. They had died out ages ago, so no one was likely to object to him bearing their arms. The Thoughts of Jaime Lannister, A Storm of Swords, Chapter 44, Jaime 6. House Lothston would eventually be granted the castle in 151 AC, but it seems this is not when the house was founded, with it dating back at least 100 years, as in 142 AC, Sir Guy Lothston was slain defending Maegor the Cruel during his trial of 7. We know of a Sir Lucas Lothston, who was a grandson of a hedge knight as well. In 135 AC, after the secret siege and foul plot against King Aegon III, Lucas was named Master at Arms of the Red Keep by Lord Torrhen Manderley to replace Sir Garth Long. Lucas earned the respect of Prince Viserys Targaryen and his elder brother, the King, King Aegon III. In 149 AC, Verlaine Stokeworth became the first mistress of the young Prince Aegon Targaryen, the future King Aegon IV, bedding the prince when he was only 14. 2 years later, the pair were discovered in bed by a knight of the Kingsguard, prompting Prince Viserys to act swiftly to avoid scandal at court. Verlaine was married off to Sir Lucas Lothston, while King Aegon III, persuaded by Viserys, granted Harrenhal to Lucas. With House Strong now extinct after the Dance of the Dragons, House Lothston thus became the sixth family to hold the vast and cursed castle. Verlaine would later return to court in 178 AC with her daughter Jane, who herself became one of King Aegon IV's mistresses. Lord Lucas rose high as Hand of the King during this period, though dark rumours spread that the king had shared the bed of both mother and daughter. Such whispers earned Lucas the mocking name the Panda in some quarters. His rise proved brief. After Jane contracted a pox from the king, Lucas fell from favour, and House Lothston was dismissed from court. The family's reputation only worsened in the years that followed. A bastard of House Lothston was defeated by Sir Arlan the Pennytree at a tourney in King's Landing in 193 AC, while later generations of Lothstons became infamous throughout the realm. Lord Lucas Lothston and his son Manfred were both remembered for cruelty and dark deeds. And according to Sir Eustace Osgrey, Manfred betrayed Daemon Blackfyre during the First Blackfyre Rebellion. Most feared of all was Lady Danelle Lothston, remembered as Mad Danelle. Tales claimed she partook in black sorcery within Harrenhal's blackened towers, sending monstrous bats to snatch children in the night, bathing in blood, feasting upon human flesh. Whether truth or fearful invention, such stories spread widely across the Seven Kingdoms. Even so, Lady Danelle remained powerful enough to answer Lord Bloodraven's calls in 212 AC, joining the other Riverlords who marched upon White Walls to crush the Second Blackfyre Rebellion. In the end, House Lothston died amidst whispers of madness and sorcery. Danelle's descent into black arts was said to have plunged Harrenhal into chaos, until the last of the line was finally brought down, aided by the ancestors of Sir Illither the Penniless. With House Lothston extinguished, during the reign of King Maegor, Harrenhal passed to House Whent, knights who had once served the Lothstons before helping overthrow them. It's speculated the Whents gave their high cheekbones to Sansa Stark and her mother Catelyn Stark, who were both known for their fine high cheekbones. Catelyn is said to resemble her own mother, the late Mnysa Whent. Just like the other houses who have held Harrenhal before them, the Whents have been marked by tragedy. Hoster Tully, Lord Paramount of the Trident, wed Mnysa Whent, and together they had 3 children. Catelyn, Lysa and Edmure. She would die later, giving birth to another child, a loss that cast a long shadow over House Tully. In 281 AC, Lord Walter Whent held a great tourney at Harrenhal, one of the most famous gatherings in the history of Westeros. It is said there that his maiden daughter was crowned Queen of Love and Beauty at the opening festivities, while her 4 brothers and her uncle, Sir Oswell Whent of the Kingsguard, all failed in their attempts to defend her honour in the lists. In the end, however, Prince Rhaegar Targaryen passed over her entirely, placing the crown instead in the lap of Lyanna Stark. Sir Oswell Whent later remained loyal to King Aerys Targaryen during Robert's Rebellion, and was slain in the war that followed, at the Tower of Joy. Years after the Greyjoy Rebellion, a Lord Whent was once defeated in the lists at Lannisport by Sir Jorah Mormont during the victory tourney held there. When Catelyn Stark reflects upon the chief bannerman sworn to her father, Lord Hoster Tully, her thoughts turn to Lady Sheila Whent, the last of her house, who is said to dwell like a ghost among the vast and crumbling halls of Harrenhal. So immense and decayed had the castle become, the Lady Sheila reportedly inhabited only the lower portions of 2 of the 5 monstrous towers, leaving the rest to darkness, ruin and silence. Among the men sworn to her was Sir Willis Wode, one of those who would later aid Catelyn in seizing Tyrion Lannister at the inn at the crossroad. At the onset of the War of the Five Kings, when Lord Tywin Lannister marches on Harrenhal with his great host, Lady Sheila abandons the castle rather than attempting the impossible task of defending it with too few men. Though she lost Harrenhal afterwards, stripped of it when King Joffrey granted the castle to Sir Janos Slynt during his first court session, she was still counted amongst the nobles commanded to appear and swear fealty to the new king or be declared a traitor. Janos would not hold Harrenhal for long, before being stripped of it and sent to the Night's Watch, with the promise that his sons would be given lands in the keep more fitting their station. Following the Battle of the Blackwater, King Joffrey awarded Harrenhal to Lord Peter Baelish for his role in securing an alliance between the Lannisters and Tyrells through the engagement of Joffrey to Margaery. Peter was named Lord Paramount of the Trident, replacing Hoster Tully of Riverrun. Hoster was one of the key supporters of Robb Stark, king in the north. Lord Baelish is yet to take his place at Harrenhal, preoccupied as acting as a regent in the Vale for the young Lord Robin Arryn, after the death of his wife, Lady Lysa Arryn. Peter Baelish would later tell Catelyn Stark the Lady Sheila Whent had reportedly died, but her whereabouts and manner of her death are unknown. Thus it's unclear what the current status of House Whent is.